Hello, I'm Karen, and this is going to be part 2 of how to make a bell fairy. In part 1 you've already learned how to make the head and the body, and if I just put this fairy to one side because we want to make it look like this before we turn it into this. This is the soul of the fairy. Sorry. I just have so much fun with these are just the best things that I think I've ever made. Anyway, without further ado, we need to make the arms and the legs. Okay, so we're still going to be using our 4mm crochet hook. We're still going to be using the same stitch, which is a single crochet if you're in the US. It is a double crochet if you're in the UK. It's a maille if you're in France, and it's a excuse me, a punto basso if you're in Italy. And I'm sorry, I haven't learnt Spanish to be able to know what it is in Spanish. We're going to begin with a chain of 2, and to make the actual legs of the actual body we need to work 6 stitches. So I'm just going to move these out of my way so that they're not distracting. We're into the first chain, we need to work 6 stitches, and we need to keep these loose. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Now we're going to work in continuous rounds. Don't pull the tail end tight. We need to keep this loose so it's easy to work with. I know that normally we're just going to work 1 stitch, by the way, in every stitch now. Normally you need to keep your stitches really tight when you're doing amigurumi, but we're going to get some really loose stitches, which is actually going to help with the shaping of the actual legs. So this is obviously they're going to be the feet end. Okay, and you're just going to go around and around, and as you start to go around and around, then the it'll curve over and it'll get smaller. So we always need to make sure that we've still got 6 stitches. So but say it gets smaller as you go, as it curves up it'll get to a certain point and then it won't get any smaller than that. You need to make sure that while you're crocheting that you're going underneath your 2 strands, that you're not accidentally coming through the opposite side. You want to come out through the hole in the centre, and you want to keep the tail end coming up through the centre. We'll pull that tight at the end and we use the tail end as part of the stuffing process, okay? Excuse me. So we just need to keep working around and around, and I sort of pinch and roll, I suppose, my work as I'm working, just so I'm going underneath the 2 stitches, the 2 strands of each stitch. And we want a total of 9 rounds or 9 rows as you actually count up from the actual bottom. Okay, and as you crochet around, because we're going in a spiral, you will always end up that one side will look slightly taller than the opposite side. So you need to make sure that when you're actually counting your rounds that it's actually 9 on both sides, because you can actually end up with 9 on one side and 8 on the other. Excuse me. And it'll just, all that happens is you just end up with a slightly wonky leg, to be fair. It's not, it doesn't, this is one of those patterns where it, because the fairies actually have their own little quirks and their own little design faults, I suppose. It's a bit like the planet, isn't it? It's got faults in it which cause earthquakes and things. But with the fairies, these faults are just part of it because it's been made in a spiral. But I've tried to utilise that as I've actually designed everything, because I haven't just made the fairies. Like I said, I'm doing this all back to front. I'm actually crocheting these up first because I want to have my whole set of colours, because I wrote a song for my fairies. It was just something, I don't even know where that came from. It's just one of those things, it just popped into my head, a bit like all the other designs that came along with this. But it's an educational tool used for learning. So you can teach your colours with this. You can. It's a lovely little song, and it teaches you what all the items actually are that we've actually crocheted. Just, I suppose, so that it just makes that this pattern is completely unique to me, and so that if anybody tries to say that it's their pattern or anything, or share it for free, or do something as people do, then we all know it's mine. So I know I'm being a little bit silly, but it's just, I actually already tried to do this video, and when I sewed the legs on, they came out wonky. So I thought I'll try again, make it look like a better video, so that you've got a really nice thing to be able to watch and to learn from. Okay, so I'm nearly at the end of this one. I've already made one leg earlier and one arm. So, and I normally make 2 legs together, then the arms together, just because that's the way that I work. But obviously for the video's sake, you don't need to see me crocheting 2 legs really, because they're both the same. But as if you look at the bottom, because the tail end's not pulled in, I've got a hole there. I don't count this original little, that bit there, as a row as I'm counting. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If I turn it over, just check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I know I need to do at least 3 more stitches, so I've got 9 on both sides. So I'm doing 1, 2 and 3. And once you've made your first leg, excuse me, if you get when you make your first leg, that was my first leg, so then you get your second leg, and then you look, if I just pull my tail end up a minute, flatten them, and make sure that they're actually both the same measurements. So this is the highest side, yeah, so when I turn it over this way, the lowest side still measures the same. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave myself a nice long tail end. It's like 2 or 3 hooks long. I like to have the longer tail ends for sewing in, because I actually left a shorter length on my other ones, which resulted in me actually making a mistake while I was crocheting, sewing the legs together. So now I've got 2 legs, and now I'm going to show you how to make one of the arms, because I've already made another one. And starting off again with about a hook and a half long tail end. I'm going to begin with a twist. You can begin with a slip knot. I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, but this time for the arms, into the first chain we're only going to make 4 stitches. So that's 1, keeping it nice and loose still, 2, 3, excuse me, and 4. Now when we go to do these ones, that you're working sort of right across your actual work, so it is a little bit more fiddly, or a little bit more awkward maybe. If you keep it nice and loose, yes, these are a bit bigger stitches, but they help to make the hand shape. So we're just going to work 1 stitch in each stitch all the way around, just like the leg, and it'll start to tip over, and it'll get smaller the more rows or the more rounds we go around. So we've got to make sure we do the same thing, making sure that we're going underneath the 2 strands of the stitch, not going through to the stitches on the opposite side. Now it's got smaller, I'm just folding it over, keeping the tail end in the middle, and underneath the 2 strands, sort of twist as I work. And so we look where the stitches are. They are slightly awkward, I suppose, but that's why I said if you keep it all nice and loose. I know normally in amigurumi that you don't. Everything's normally quite tight and the stuffing's tight, but I don't normally crochet really tight, and I'm not amigurumi is not normally my thing. But when the fairies decided to pop into my head, then I just went with, it was, I don't know, while I was designing them, it was one of those, I want to say it's sort of like a strange experience in one sense, because I designed the fairies and then the accessories that I've made to go with them all started happening. It just became a whole teaching tool thing. And then once I'd actually got the fairies and the accessories made, that's when the song popped into my head. And so I did try. I don't actually play the keyboard or anything, but I actually did write down the music as well. I can't write it properly, like you know, you get those, you've got your treble clef, yeah, and the lines to write your music on. I haven't done that, but I've actually written out the words, and I've written what the notes are on the piano and for the recorder, which I've also added with my actual crochet patterns for sale in Etsy. Oh, and talking of my Etsy, I'm still not sure as I make these videos whether it's actually going to go back to being called Cottagecake or whether it's going to be the new name of Karen's Crochet Pattern, because I decided I was going to change the name because I thought it would go better with the channel. But then I realised that people couldn't find what they was looking for, so I have actually put up an advert with Cottagecake in it so that you can find me while I actually get things sorted out with Etsy themselves. So it's all been a little bit of a learning curve, because to be fair, I've neglected my Etsy. I found it, I don't want to sound like I'm being ungrateful, because you know, when I actually make my videos, I know people want the patterns, but then they send me loads of messages to my Etsy as well, like about my videos and stuff, and ask me advice of how to get started on a video channel and things like that. And I just don't have enough hours in the day to be able to do all of that as well as my family life. So I'm really sorry that I'm not the best businesswoman in the world. Right, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Just want to do a few more stitches, trying not to catch that end there. And now I'm going to count again just to check. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 that way. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 that way. I'm just going to check because I just want to make sure. As I've not counted that bit there, have I? One. If I put them side by side, they actually do look the same length, even though as I've just counted, but that's just because I've got that twist there. So I'm just going to get one extra stitch in it to sort of balance them out a little bit better. And so the arms and the legs are both 9 rows or 9 rounds tall. So I'm just going to just cut this off. I've got my scissors tangled up in my yarn. Cut that off there a minute. Because if I put all of my pieces that I've made side by side, they all need to be the same length. Now I know in reality that your arms and your legs are not the same length. However, because of the way that this kicks up at the top there, I've actually utilised that as a shoulder piece rather than being, you know, just utilised it. I don't know. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is show you how to actually stuff the legs. So as you can see, you've got your hole at the end. So you have to pull that nice and tight, and it does make it come inside the actual foot slightly. And you want to get your hook, use the opposite end, and push this tail end into the actual foot. And when you push it down, sort of push it into that foot area. So all this tail end is going to become part of the stuffing for the foot. Now if I can feel it's down here, so if I actually measure my hook there and put it there, you can see it's gone right into that bottom bit there. So this is where I need some stuffing. You only need little pinches of stuffing for this. to try and stop it from getting a lumpy finish. You want it to try and be nice and neat. Poke that in. You want the legs to be a little bit stiff, but not, because if they end up too bendy, then your character doesn't walk very well. If you're just going to leave it just as the, just as the crochet sole. Because if the legs are bendy, where's the other one? I did one. This one, look, the legs weren't so thingy, so it's a bit more wobbly when it walks. But other than that, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. But I just like them to be just, I don't know, no one can ever stuff exactly the same amount into something. That feels nice. I can see my hooks to there, so I still want a little bit more in the end. Just put that little bit in. I'm happy with that because I don't want this last row to be stuffed. Yeah, I'm going to put that bit in as well. Just put it in. There we go. I'm going to do the same with the other one. So you can see it's gone rounder now, yeah? And now I'm going to pull this tail end nice and tight. Push the tail end in, and then as you push it in, you can push down and it opens that back out again. Because you want them to end up being the same length, roughly. I can't get that tail end to tuck in. Come along, there we go. And that's in there. Little bit of stuffing, little pinches. Little pinches work better. It's better to do that rather than to end up with it, say, with lumps and bulges, because you don't want it to be like that. A little bit more. Oops, I'm getting it all in my yarn. Tuck that into there. I do appreciate the fact that you all sit and watch me do all of this, you know, and I do love the fact that you actually all, for those of you that actually go and then actually make the items I've made as well, I do really, really, really enjoy that. So they're both the same length now. And then with the actual arms, we do the same thing because we want that end to be tightened up. So we pull the tail end tight, but we push so much of the tail end in to be able to make a little lump at the end for the hand. So you want it to feel that lump, and then the rest of the tail end is just literally just tucked inside the arm. Yeah, you don't want it to go, just so that it's got a little bit of, it's not quite as floppy as this one. And pull that tail end tight and push that into the end. You've got to be careful because we did make the bigger stitches, you can accidentally come out of it. That's why I'm saying to be careful when you're pushing in yarn ends. You may feel that if your yarn end is too long, you don't want it all inside, you can actually say, oh, that's enough, and then cut off that last little bit. But there we go. Okay, so that's tucked in. Okay, so this is actually, I was actually planning on doing a separate video for doing the sewing in, but I've actually decided, because we've only been 20 minutes on this one, I thought, you know, you may want to stop the, obviously you might want to stop the video, do the little things, do what you want to do. It's entirely up to you. So this is the head and a body that I made earlier. This is not exactly the same head that I made earlier, because I did try to do the sewing in of everything and I made a mess. So but if that happens to you, if you actually do want to do my items, then it actually can be made into something else, so don't worry. Now what I do is, because this is all part of the plan, this will actually cause you to probably to get a little bulgy bit, but I'm going to go in where I've actually finished off. I'm coming into that same stitch. You want this high stitch to be to the side, and you want the actual leg to be roughly in the middle of the actual person. So to start off with, my first stitch, I just come straight the way through the opposite side and pull that into place. This leg is going to be very wobbly, and I find it's easier to sort of hold the leg and have it upside down, when you go into sew back into the body, go in exactly the same place where you actually came out of that stitch. You want to go, and we're just lifting it up so you can see I'm going inside the middle of the leg. I'm going to come out at a hole of the one of the stitches. I'm just going to pull that through. This stitch here, look, I don't want to pull it, but I want it so it just pulls. I don't want to pull it tight to make it go in and distort the body. And then rather than sewing over, because you don't want your stitches to be visible here, you want to go into the stitch at the side and then come back through the centre of the leg and come in. It doesn't matter where you come out. This is why if you leave a nice long tail end, you've got plenty of room to manoeuvre that leg into the right position where you want it. And that's where I went wrong with my other video. I didn't leave myself a long enough tail end. So now I'm going to go in here. I'm going to come back up through the middle, underneath 2 strands of a stitch, pull all that all the way through, making sure this doesn't go, it's just going to be just tight. I don't want this body to be distorted. Excuse me. And now I'm going to come to the stitch to the side of it, go down into the, I'm just coming out near the belly button area, and this stitch can be pulled that bit tighter because we want the leg to stay. And so now it's much more secure. And you come into here, bending it over just slightly, and you will, when you make them, if I just show you on these ones, when you actually bend over, you can actually see some of the strands inside, but they're really nice and strong because there's lots and lots of tiny stitches, and we need them so that if you are going to let children play with these, it does keep them as secure as possible. But to be fair, this is more of something for the adults to actually use to help teach your children things, and like the song and the rainbow and things like that, or rainbow colours. It's not, I'm not singing the rainbow song. It's just so that, I don't know, the song was a very strange little thing that happened to me. But like I said, I've included with my actual pattern, there's a separate download with the actual song, with the notes for a piano and a recorder, so that you can actually sing it and play the music. But I'm not going to sing to you right now. I'm going to save that one for actually when I actually do the introduction video, which is actually going to say the introduction video is going to be made last, which is really strange because I normally do everything the correct way around. And I'm doing this all higgledy-piggledy. Right, so now we can see we have this strange looking thing, and the leg is definitely nice and secure. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off this tail end there, remove that yarn, and then get the second leg. Now the legs are the hardest bit. When it comes to sewing the arms, they're so much easier. So I'm going to show you the second leg. And I do say, if you're actually sitting watching all of my videos, I do appreciate the fact that you're doing this. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my leg as close as I can to the other leg. I want this bit on the outside, just like I did before. I'm going to go underneath the loop. I'm going to go into the body. I'm going to come straight out somewhere in the body, which is just going to keep that leg roughly where I want it. And do the same thing again, tip it upside down, come back in through that same hole, come up through the actual leg. I'm going to come up over here and pull that through without distorting the body. And then I'm actually going to come into this stitch, actually I think I've come there, I'm going to come down, so I'm going to try and bring this leg to sit at the side of the other one the best that I possibly can. See, if it doesn't matter if they're not exactly perfect. These are little fairies with their own little quirks. They're all going to have their own personality. No one's going to be able to stitch their fairy exactly the same way. I've already made 6 complete fairies and 1, 2, 3, 3 complete souls, as I like to call them, the fairy souls, and the 4th one which I made a mistake on, and now this one, and they're all slightly different. None of them are exactly the same. Okay, so don't worry about it, but you just try your best. That's the whole thing of this one. It's just try and make them as nice as you possibly can, and lots and lots of little stitches keeps these legs nice and secure, so that if you actually do end up holding them with their legs, they're not going to fall off. And but if they do, then you've already learned how to make it, so you already know how to make a replacement leg. You can cut off the other one if it's gone a bit weird, and repair the fairy. So that makes you then become a fairy doctor. I've actually put that in my pattern as well. It says, now you have completed your fairy, or does it say, if you've completed your fairy, you are now a qualified fairy doctor. So anyway, I know these are just pure fun. These are just, I've had the best fun making these. I really do appreciate the fact that I actually went away for a little bit and had that time off to be able to come back full of, oh, well, I wasn't full of inspiration actually when I first came back. It was I still needed a little bit more time, but here I am. And the only thing that's happened is that I didn't achieve my goal, which my goal has been to actually put up a video every month. And for the first time since I've been doing my videos, I actually didn't get my target. So now you're being subjected to a whole set of videos with me crocheting fairies. Okay, I think this is enough stitches in this one. I'm going to move on to, and it doesn't say, it doesn't matter if you end up with a little bulgy bit sticking out, because it all belongs to part of the plan of what we do with the crochet fairies. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is show you how to put the arms on. And I know some of you are going to say, well, that's obvious where you put the arms, but there's those people that don't know. So I'm actually sharing all of it so you can see it build for yourself. Same again, the bit that sticks up, we're going to put the needle there. Now we're going to line up the arm with the leg at the side so that we know that they're in line. And when you look at the actual person, you've got the lines for the neck going to come into the bottom piece there, and we're going to find the hole that we want to go into, and we're going to just come straight through the opposite side. Okay, making sure that your yarn doesn't loop over the arm, and that's got one arm into place. Now you're going to go back through that same hole, but you want to sort of come around a bit, because remember, if you go through the stuffing and you come out in exactly the same space, your arm will fall off. Okay, so you want to go into the arm, pull it. I know the arm's all wobbly right now, but we're going to go into the stitch, into the centre of the arm, back into that same place, and we're going to put there, so it's getting tighter every time, making sure we go around all the stuffing in the middle, back through the arm. I'm going to come into this stitch here, back into the same place, back up there, and pull this. We'll keep doing, as I say, the repetitive stitches, just to make sure there's lots of little stitches, so that if you're going to give this to a child, the arms are going to be nice and secure, and it's highly unlikely that they're going to fall off. But like I said, it doesn't matter if they do, because if you can make a fairy, you can sew new arms and new pieces should they be needed. Right, then I think that that's going to be enough stitches to hold that arm in place. There. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to come down this part of the body and then cut off that tail end. And now we've got the second arm to put into place. We've nearly done it. We've nearly made the crochet sole. So it takes you roughly an hour. Well, actually it's not, it's a little bit longer, because obviously I've only done one arm and one leg in these but you're needing to make 2. So now you can see where I've been coming in and out of the other one, and that should line up so that this lines up with the same, so that your arm's in the right place. You're going to come out underneath the armpit of the other one. Make sure that tail end's not wrapped around the actual arm. Pull that nice and secure. And we're going to use these same holes and just keep latching on. Actually come out a slightly different place there. Underneath 2 loops of the stitch there, into the next 2 loops, back into the same hole, back underneath, oops, I'm at the wrong place, under the armpit area. Now I have known as well that when I've been sewing these arms on, sometimes my arms don't come out exactly level, which is another little quirk that happens while you're sewing things together, so another thing to make them even more unique. I'm actually going to go into a top bit there because I want them to be a little bit neater there. Make sure that's not wrapped around the arm. There. I still feel like I want an extra couple of stitches, so just bear with me. We're nearly finished. Well, I'm nearly finished anyway. Okay. And then, that arm's nice and secure. I'm just going to come back down through roughly the belly button area and cut off the yarn. And there we go. We now have a little sole. Now, as you can see, my little sole is looks like that. So what you do is I pinch it and squidge it. I look at the, see, is this the front or is this the front? Looking at where the arms have ended up being positioned. Yeah, you can decide. I think that this is going to be the front. This looks more like the back to me of this particular one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend the arms in half. There we go, and bend the legs in half like this, and then that's it. We can actually walk, my little person. Okay, so there we go. That's this next stage. In the next stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to sew in the face, the eyes and the nose and everything. Okay, so thank you for watching, thank you for liking, thank you for sharing, and thank you for subscribing, and hopefully soon we'll have our own little fairies. Bye for now.